Okay, so in this video I'm going to have a look at completing the square for these quadratic equations here. And I'm going to have a look at two examples, one fairly straightforward one and one that's a little bit more detailed, a little bit more tricky, but it's the same idea. So we'll have a look at how you do it first. I'm going to look at solving the equation by completing the square. So first I'm going to do it the normal way. If you look at this equation here, usually what you would do is, well, there are a few different ways of doing it. You could use the formula, the minus b formula, or in this case, it's just relatively straightforward. Usually we would write down two brackets like this, factorize the x squared, that would give me x and x, factorize the 7, that has to be 7 and 1. And because we have a minus here, it has to be plus minus, plus 6 here, so I'm going to put the plus here and the minus here. So checking that, x times x, x squared, plus 7 times minus 1, minus 7, plus 7x minus 1x is plus 6x. So that's correct. Now that would mean then that x plus 7 is equal to 0, or x minus 1 is equal to 0. So that would give me x as minus 7 or 1. So that's solving it the norm. This is how we normally do it. But let's have a look at completing the square and solving it. See how that works. So I'll just write it down again. We've got x squared plus 6x minus 7 equals 0. Okay, so the procedure is, first thing you want to do is get rid of this minus 7, or just move it over to the other side. So let's just write that down again. So you've got x squared plus 6x is equal to 7. Now, the first thing you want to do is take the coefficient of the x. So in this case, we've got plus 6. So the coefficient of the x is plus 6. You half it, so that gives us plus 3. Square it, and that gives us plus 9. So you write this down again, x squared plus 6x. You add plus 9 here to the left-hand side. And then you're also going to have to add the plus 9 to the right-hand side. So we haven't changed this equation here. It's still the same equation. We just added 9 to both sides. Now, so just to recap on what we've done, we've moved the minus 7 over to this side, first of all. So we've just taken this minus 7, moved it over here. It's become plus 7. We've taken the plus 6. We've halved it. That's given us plus 3. And then we've taken the plus 3 and we've squared it, and that's given us 9. And we've added 9 to both sides of the equation. Okay. So let's see what we can do now. Just look at the left-hand side here. We can factorize that. If we factorize it the way we did earlier, this here will just give us 16, by the way, on the right-hand side. Factorize the x here is just x times x. 9 is going to be 3 times 3. They're both pluses here, so it's going to be plus times plus. So what we've actually ended up with here is x plus 3 squared equals 16. Or you can write that as x plus 3 squared minus 16 equals 0. This is our completed square form. This is our completed square form of our quadratic equation. It's exactly the same equation, it's just written a different way. Okay, so how do we use this to solve our equation? Remember, we want a minus 7 and a 1 for our x. Well, let's see, can we get that? Okay, so if we square root both sides here, we're going to end up with x plus 3 on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, we square root 16, we get plus or minus 4. That will give me then x equal to, bring this 3 over here, we get minus 3 plus or minus 4. That gives us an x value, or two x values of x is equal to minus 3 minus 4. That gives us minus 7. Or we have minus 3 plus 4. That gives us 1. So minus 7 plus 1, is that what we got earlier? Minus 7 plus 1, that's exactly what we got earlier. So this is completing the square first of all, and then using it to solve the equation, to find the roots of the equation. Okay, so that's our first example. Let's have a look at a more detailed one now. So let's have a look at let's say 4x squared minus 2x minus 5 equals 0. Okay, now in order to complete the square, the first thing you're going to have to make sure is that the coefficient of the x squared is 1. So we're going to have to divide everything by 4 to get rid of this 4 here. So I'll just do that first. So here we just end up with x squared. Here we end up with minus 2 over 4. So minus 2 over 4 is just minus a half. And here we end up with minus 5 over 4 equals 0. Okay, so now we have our basic quadratic equation here. So let's start then. What did we do previously? We took this number here and we brought it over to the other side. That's fine. So x squared minus a half x is equal to 5 over 4. Next thing we did was we took the coefficient of the x. In our case, it's minus a half. What did we do with it? We halved it first of all. So let's half, and that's going to give us minus a quarter. So minus half is minus a quarter. What did we do next? We squared it. So let's take our minus 1/4 and square it. That's going to give us plus 1 over 16. Okay, so let's just add 1 over 16 to both sides. So you've got x squared minus half x plus 1 over 16. And over here we've got 5 over 4. 5 over 4 even. Let's just redo that. 5 over 4. And we've got plus 1 over 16 here. Okay, so let's just factorize the left-hand side, and we'll just add these two on the right-hand side. So we did this kind of thing then, and over here we actually end up with 21 over 16 when you add these two fractions. Okay, so factorize the x here, that'll give us x times x. Factorize the 16, so that's going to be 1 over 4 times 1 over 4. 1 over 4 times 1 over 4, that will give us 1 over 16. Okay, so that's all I've done here. Okay, now we want a plus 1 over 16, so it has to be plus plus or minus minus. Because we want a minus a half here, it's going to be minus and minus here. Okay, so almost there. We have ended up with x minus a quarter squared equals 21 over 16. Or if you want to write it as x minus 1 over 4 squared minus 21 over 16 equals 0. This is your completed square form here, or this here if you like. We've used this, you may have seen it in other videos I've done on graphing functions. These two figures here are useful, but you can have a look at those videos for that. But what we want to do from here on in is to solve this particular equation. So let's see if we can find values for x. Okay, so what did we do then? We have the left hand side is squared, so let's square root it. So we end up with x minus a quarter. And on the right hand side we have to square root this here. So it's going to be plus or minus, I'm just going to write it down, I won't actually do it out, square root of 21 over 16. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is bring this over here. So we end up with x is equal to, this becomes a quarter, plus or minus the square root of 21 over 16. So there are two answers, and it depends on what kind of format you're asked in the question that you want the answer. Well, I'll just leave it like this. So x is going to be equal to a quarter plus the square root of 21 over 16, or a quarter minus the square root of 21 over 16. And that's it.